The concept of quality is complex at best. And we deal quite a bit with our faculty, we deal with our students, we deal with operational folks, and sometimes we kind of forget the senior non-technical leaders that are at the tip of the iceberg or the tip of the sword, depending on who you're talking to. And so we wanted today to have a chance to visit with our expert panel and talk about this whole idea of where the senior non-technical leaders fit in this quest for quality. Now, put this in a context. Let me say this. In education, as far as technology is concerned, we've been through 3 eras. One, the technology-assisted era, which is basically an automation kind of a project that we all have been through for sure, with a certain set of outcomes. Secondly, we have the technology-mediated era, which was kind of neat because our processors got faster and our networks got better and we got a little bit better understanding of what's going on. But the outcomes, the quality was kind of the same. Now, we enter the era of technology-enhanced education. We have to change the focus on quality. We have to change the way we think about what these technologies do. And this is now not the era of the technical people. This is the era of the senior non-technical leadership. And we have to listen carefully about how those individuals feel that they fit into the picture. We've got more data now than we've ever had. We're not really sure what to do with it, but we've got it. And we have the ability to collect even more data. And I think it's safe to say that when it comes to quality and quality assurance in education, without the really strong support of the senior non-technical leaders, we're kind of running around in the desert, and we can't afford to do that. So what we're going to do this afternoon in that context is that I'm going to ask each of our panelists here to introduce herself and explain what she does. And also, and my colleagues on the board know I'm going to ask this, what is quality in your context? And what is your role in quality assurance in your institution? After they do that, we're going to come back with some other questions. And by the way, you see 3 experts here. We've got another one. You all are the 4th member of the panel. So I will be coming to you, time permitting. So ladies, if you will, introduce yourself and tell us what quality is. Lisa?
Lisa Clark. I'm with the University of Northwestern, Ohio, and I'm currently wearing the 2 hats. I'm still the online dean of programs, but I'm also the associate vice president for academic affairs. And so quality in my context, really with both roles, starting in 2015 with the dean of online programs, when we restructured the oversight of our online programs, was really looking at everything from start to finish. It was more than just design. It was more than just teaching and delivery. It was looking at all of our processes from application to graduation for our online students, and that you talk about a cultural shakeup at our institution. But really looking at everything from start to finish that we do with our online learners and making sure that we are doing the best we can to support their situation. And I would say with my additional hat that I put on in the last year, it's just looking at quality assurance for the institution, even beyond the lens of online, but I guess to go with Mike's themes, technology enhanced education, that really is our on-campus students as well. So it's looking at the big picture.
Hi, I'm Tina Parscal. I'm the Executive Director for Colorado Community Colleges Online. CCCOnline is part of the Colorado Community College system. We are the consortium of the 13 colleges within CCCS. We're not a college in and of ourselves. Students register at their home colleges. CCCOnline delivers the education on behalf of the colleges who entrust their students to us. And then the students are then transcribed from their home college. Colorado has some things that really facilitate that, including a common course numbering system, as well as guaranteed transfers between the 2 to 4 years. So that really enables us to operate smoothly, I'd like to say effectively, at scale. And we serve about 33,000 students each year. So for me, quality really takes two themes. One is delivering the direct instruction through CCCOnline, but also the hat I wear as a member of leadership at the Colorado Community College system and really leading some of the online initiatives, chairing the Learning Technology Council, and looking at as a system, how do we support online learning writ large within the system? So many of the things that I do are similar to what Lisa has mentioned, but also things like large-scale procurement. So we recently, in the last 2 years, have gone through an RFP for a system-wide LMS. By statute, Colorado Community College system has a single LMS and a single student information system. So that RFP was really a collaborative process among the colleges and the system office, but also looking at professional development. I think that's a key component of building capacity for online. Last year we had, as of last year, we had 190 people who have gone through the Quality Matters, some level of Quality Matters training. So it's really become endemic to our culture. And looking at data, I think Mike bringing up data is a huge thing. And looking at how do we leverage data to really inform what we're doing in the realm of quality and how we ensure that our students are having the type of experience that we promise them to have in the community college system.
I'm Ann Cooper, Vice President of Academic Affairs at St. Petersburg College in Florida. And as the Chief Learning Officer, it's very important to me that as a commitment to excellence, we are bringing quality into every class that we offer, whether that's on ground or in the virtual system. Anyway, quality to me is a key to student success. It means setting standards and criteria so that students' experience is going to be an engaging learning environment where they're going to be able to gain the knowledge and the skills that will allow them to achieve their educational goals. And so it's extremely important that quality stays ahead of quantity. Community colleges' access and enrollment goals can sometimes lead to exponential growth in online education. But if quality is not leading the way, then student success can suffer. And St. Petersburg College found ourselves in that kind of a situation. We had started online programs back as far as 1995. There was a lot of growth in enrollment. The push for access was, of course, a major motivating factor, and we grew exponentially. We became one of the largest providers in the public arena in the state of Florida, offering online education. But we did recognize that our success rates for our online courses were running about 10% on the average lower than our on-ground courses. We had a new president join us, and of course, responsibilities shifted, and there was a great focus on student success goals. So we began a process of college-wide online revitalization, and this started back in 2013. And quality, to me, has to be a value that's embedded in the fabric of the institution. And we had begun with what we called an e-campus, and they kind of controlled that whole aspect. And so we moved away from that because there were a handful of full-time faculty that taught in that program, but they were primarily adjuncts. And I wanted to embed it throughout the college. And so it became a college-wide instructional modality, and we brought committee of about 100 college-wide faculty, deans, administrators, instructional team, instructional design team together to begin conversations about, okay, here's where we find ourselves today. How are we going to improve the quality of what we are offering to our students?
Very good. Thank you, Ann. Now, you see what we've got here. We have got leaders at the highest levels in their institutions. And this is an extremely important piece. Now, fourth panel member. You've now heard the introductions of this panel. What are your expectations of this session? That's easy. They have no expectations. We're talking about the role of the highest level of our administrative staff here in being sure that quality assurance is indeed a part of the fabric that we've woven into everything we do at an institution. Okay? And your expectations are extremely important. Because going through this, and when we finish and when you go home, you have a responsibility. And that responsibility is extremely important. Yes, sir. What's your expectation? Oh, you got to, okay.
I would say for me, my expectation is just learning how to better lead at my institution because I'm not, on the front lines of these things, because I don't get into the rubric. I rely on the people who do. And so how do I lead, but still have the conversations at the high levels and know what I'm talking about, know what I'm doing.
Outstanding, outstanding. So ladies, we've got young leaders in the audience. Other expectation. Yes, ma'am. Well, there's one right there. Yes, sir.
Hi, I think you touched a little bit on this, but how do you measure quality and, the return on investment or the benefits of quality?
Very, very good. And one more, and then we're going to put the panel to work, and then get Russ.
Great minds think alike. That was my same question. To me, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. I need a metric. What is a quality course? We all know what a quality course looks like, feels like, tastes like, but how do you put metrics? How do you metricize a course and not have the world offended, i.e. faculty, that their course is now a 1-star course versus a 5-star course? So I need metrics.
And that comes to your desk when it happens. Okay, one more. Russ?
Well, in addition to how you operationalize quality, instead of just talk about it, what do you do? What is the role at your institutions in terms of standards or other processes you use to ensure that the course, when it leaves the box and is offered the first time, and then when it's offered subsequently, meets your expectations for quality?
Very good, very good. So panel, there you have some expectations laid out. Let me put another one on you that wraps those expectations in. At the administrative level, you get a chance to use all kinds of businessy terms, okay? Value proposition is important. So I'd like to challenge each of you to tell us what you feel the value proposition is of quality at your institution and your role in assuring that that value proposition is realized.
So Anne actually gave me a great segue for this because she was talking about, you can enroll all the students that there are out there, right? So our admissions, they could bring in 500 new online students for our program tomorrow, but if the quality isn't there, we are not going to retain those students. They're not going to successfully complete. So for the institution, I think the value added proposition of what we've been doing for the last 5 years or so is the increased retention, right? Which helps with so many things, not just the learner experience, but from the institutional standpoint, it helps enrollment, right? Which helps budgets, which helps all sorts of reporting that we have to do. For the students, it's the learning experience, right? Because again, they went out on a limb, they decided to invest time and resources into selecting our institution. And so I want the value proposition for them to be that they made the right choice and that they feel like they are receiving a quality education. And what was the second part, Mike, of that?
What is your role in realizing that value proposition?
So again, with the restructuring of our virtual college in 2015, the role covers everything from student support to faculty support. So the other things that these ladies have mentioned in terms of looking at our delivery standards and expectations, but also providing faculty with the professional development that they need, because many of them maybe were teaching online for us also since the 90s, but we weren't doing it well all of that time. And so they may be wonderful on-campus faculty, but didn't really know how to translate their abilities online. So the course designs, having some content standards, just leveraging our LMS in a way that would make the environment more suitable for our learners, but then also looking at it more broadly. We're looking at how to continue using our LMS for our on-campus courses as well, because they're already using the LMS for grades. So now we're intertwining that with assessment. So again, larger pieces of quality assurance that go beyond just our online program offerings.
So I want to echo what Lisa said. It really comes down to the value comes, of course, with the student experience. If the students aren't achieving the learning outcomes or their desired life or educational goals, then we're not successful. And so as we look at quality, we look at things like, you know, all of your standards, retention rates, DFW rates, course persistence. One of the things that's a little different is because we serve, you know, some of the colleges that are part of our consortium also have their own online programs. So really looking at how do we work in consort with them in collaboration with the colleges, and so that students have choices. They may decide to take an on-ground course at their home college. They may decide to take an online course at their home college, or they may decide to take it through CCCOnline. And so one of the ways that we ensure that we're offering value is making sure that our member colleges are also satisfied with the level of service that we're providing to the students to whom they entrust with us. I also want to talk a little bit about the way that we can, as a consortium, we are also looked at being thought leaders and innovating and being able to support our colleges in innovating at scale. So quality is a moving target in a lot of ways because the expectations of the students we serve evolve over time. So making sure that that value proposition is as agile and nimble as the expectations that students have for us. So really helping our colleges as they innovate, as they think about best practices, really taking that role of thought leadership as well.
Some of the things that we have done to ensure quality is, first of all, we began with a very collaborative process in deciding upon what standards and criteria we were going to adopt. And we did adopt, of course, the Quality Matters standards, but then we also created some St. Petersburg College standards and templates, because one of the things that we found with our organic growth, we might have 20 different versions of the same course, completely different navigation within that course, which is a nightmare for students. And so we began in adopting specific standards and criteria. And then we moved into, as my partners have said, staff and professional development. This is extremely important. And although we had people that had been teaching online for years and some were more qualified than others, we wiped the slate clean and we said, nope, we're going to begin from the beginning. We're going to start over again. And we created a faculty certification process. All faculty who teach at St. Petersburg College have to go through the learning management system training, because we use that in all instructional modalities. Any faculty member who wants to teach online does our internal course on the pedagogy associated with teaching online. Then if a faculty member wants to develop online courses, they must take the QM rubric. But I also require all of my college-wide deans to complete the QM rubric course. Because if they're going to be one of the individuals who are going to be reviewing courses and know whether it has the quality or not, then they need to have that course as well. And then if we're going to have peer reviewers, they complete the QM peer review course. We also have now put in place, because one of the things that we found is a lot of individuals in our previous model had done training, but they hadn't done anything in 10 years associated with how technology and pedagogy had improved. So now to maintain that certification, there's an annual requirement in regards to updating in regards to pedagogy or technology or both. Each of our courses now go through 3 reviewers. We have an instructional design team member, the dean, and then a peer faculty reviewer. So far, we've created 140 standard courses that are Quality Matters standard, or they meet the standard. 285 of our faculty, instructional design team, deans have completed the QM rubric course, and we have 74 QM peer reviewers at St. Petersburg College. Another big thing for people in leadership positions is allocation of resources. This is key. And one of the things that we recognized is that a lot of faculty had created courses. In fact, I was a faculty member who created an online course back in the day. And when I think back to what I created, I'm like, oh dear, hope nobody pulls that out of the archives.
That's the next question. Don't divulge anything embarrassing yet.
Yeah. And we recognize that faculty are content experts. Some of them are technology gurus as well because they like to tinker with that. But we needed an instructional design specialist team as well. And we wanted to bring all the faculty who teach that course together to decide, okay, what's the best content, what kinds of assessments, what kinds of activities, and then let our instructional design team do all the bells and whistles with the technology that the faculty don't have time to do, and in many instances don't have the skill. So we brought those 2 teams together, and that has been very helpful in creating the 140 standard courses. And then you have to be willing to make data-informed decisions. So one of the pieces of data that we use is first of all, does it meet the Quality Matters standards? Does it meet the St. Petersburg College standards? And some of those are not just the template, but what kind of response time should a student be able to expect from their faculty member? Weekends may not be weekends in that regard, particularly if you have all the work due on Sunday night. Other data that's important to us to assure that the quality is there is, what are the student success rates like? Are they improving with the standard courses? If they're not, then what do we need to change? Let's look at what's happening. And then seeing those success rates increase, what's interesting is our enrollment this fall, over 50% of our student semester hours are online. So the growth has continued and the student success rates have increased. So I think the value proposition then is to achieve quality, you have to be willing to endorse an ongoing process of improvement. You're not going to get there overnight. Lots of communication, lots of collaboration, and you need to use data to inform the decisions. Otherwise, you can quickly stagnate. We now have courses that met the Quality Matters standards when they were first created 3 years ago, okay? We got to circle back and make sure that we're continuing to improve those, that they don't just get set aside, because that's what happened to us in the past. We created standard courses or master courses, and then they were kind of set aside and nobody looked back to say, are they still relevant or are they still where they need to be?
Very good. So you see, from a leadership standpoint, you just have to have a hold of all of those strings at once. That's all. And you have to be sure that you don't ask your troops to do anything you wouldn't do yourself, okay? And then you have to decide, how do I know if we're winning or not? And so the other 2 expectations, we're going to get to that in just a moment. With all the data we have, with all the fancy toys and tools and everything else we've got, artificial intelligence, machine learning, so all that stuff's cool. However, it doesn't mean anything if you don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to ask the panel right now, how do we know if we're winning? Let's assume in your context, you have all the strings in your hand. And everyone knows that the faculty are always cooperative with every single decision you make. Never question about that. How do we know if we're winning as far as quality assurance is concerned?
So, you know, one thing that I learned early on in the process of taking the Dean of Online Programs position in 2015, for about the first 6 months, it was the first position that I ever worked directly with students, being in administration. So, you know, faculty, of course, I worked with students. But as Dean of Online Program, it was the first time that student complaints came to me in a way that I had to address. And, you know, a few things that I heard very loudly and clearly the first 6 months goes back to what these ladies have already mentioned. They didn't like having to spend the first week or two figuring out all the different course formats, because if they wanted to take a full-time load of courses, that might mean 3 or 4 courses, and they had to figure out each course's layout before they could even start looking at focusing on content. And then beyond that, a lot of our faculty were using what I'll refer to as publisher supplementals, right? So they may also have to go outside of the LMS, have a separate username and password, and figure out this publisher's site. And then for the next class, it was a different publisher's site, right? So all in all, it might have been six different platforms they were having to learn for one quarter. So we very quickly developed a template that using the Quality Matters rubric from the start in terms of the design of the template, and we standardized that aspect of it. We started again from scratch, as Anne mentioned, where, you know, faculty who maybe you've been doing this a long time, but if you still wish to be doing it, it's no longer the Wild West. And not to say that all faculty were using it as easy money, but certainly some of them were. So we wanted to make it clear that there were going to be expectations. It wasn't okay to not be in during the weekend. Because most of our online students, what we started to look at was activity reports in the LMS that nobody else had done. And it was very obvious that our students were in the evenings and on weekends, you know, and so we let faculty choose which day, but at least one day over the weekend they need to be in there. And we have set, you know, 5 out of 7 days out of the week, you have to have some presence in your course, because again, your students are in and out like that. So we removed all of the supplementals and said, when the time comes, through course design evaluations and looking at what materials and tools you need to support your course learning objectives, we'll look at working those back in when the time comes. But for the moment, we pulled them all out. And I suddenly had 0 student complaints. I mean, literally, I went from having, that was taking up a large part of my day for 6 months when I first inherited all of these courses and everything that came along with that, to not dealing with student issues anymore. And so certainly there's still the occasional one here and there. And when we have, over these last 4 years, rolled out some new initiatives, like going to all digital materials last spring, most of those being OER, that was a little bit of a transition period, right? And there was, you know, some student alarm at that point. But, you know, what one measure of success or quality for us is that the students are now focusing on content, and they're not busy trying to call somebody and find somebody that can help them figure everything out. They're actually able to focus on the content. And then we are at a stage now in the end of year 4, going into year 5 of our strategic plan, where we're going to be looking and analyzing a lot of our data. We've been collecting data, the data you all have been talking about, whether it's looking at fail rates, withdrawal rates, retention. We've already moved some programs actually off of our on-campus, and they're entirely online now because our numbers have grown that much online. And we saw some transition of students going from on-campus. They heard that things had changed online, so they gave online a try again, blending, and then they transitioned to 100% online. And then some of the programs that we only offer online now, they're actually, we're seeing more and more of a 2-year associate degree, maybe in health information technologies, than enrolling in our 100% healthcare. And that program we sunsetted on campus because it just wasn't doing anything on campus, 2, 3, 4 students in it. And I just ran numbers right before I came here, and we've got 50 students. That's the biggest. We've not had numbers like that in our healthcare program administration on campus or online since when we started it before my time as Dean of Online. So those are some examples, hopefully, to answer that one.
So I want to build on one of the things that Anne said about Quality Matters. We've done some of the similar things where from my role, our dean and all of our program chairs, our associate deans, all of our instructional designers, and then a number of our instructors have gone through the QM, the APP QMR. And what that has done for us is that has created a common vocabulary. And as we're talking about quality, we're able to level set expectations among our staff. So it becomes part of the culture and the language, which I have found to be extremely helpful in all the institutions that I've worked at where quality matters has been part of the process. And like Lisa said, we also have a centralized course development process. And so individual faculty don't build their course at one off. We have a team of instructional designers who have built a QM aligned master course template. That master course template then is scaffolded for the subject matter expert who works with the ID team to develop the course, and that course then is offered in multiple sections. So in a given year, we will be running about 2,300 sections of courses over multiple levels of term. So as we're looking at the quality, we're having to look at it from a lot of different vantage points. So I want to go to the measurement question, because I think that helps us answer how do we know we're winning. I think about quality is almost a dashboard approach. I think about all the different kinds of inputs that we have. So, you know, we have the standard end of course surveys that we look at. We also do a midpoint experiential survey, which is based on the community of inquiry scores. So we're able to look at teaching presence, social presence, and cognitive presence. And that gives us a pulse of how the course is going kind of mid-range. And that's very helpful for our program chairs to be able to say, okay, you know, this is going well, or perhaps we need an intervention. The help desk also, the 24/7 help desk is actually run by our department. So we're able to look at those kinds of calls. We've also gone to a lot of OER. We have 64 courses that use OER materials, and we have most of our courses use a digital integration. And so by having information about real-time information, what's happening at the help desk, then we're able to know if something goes off the rails, or we're able to have some early alerts that we need to have some kind of intervention there. Accessibility is another really key thing that we have to think about in terms of quality. We have, as part of our system initiative, that we have to be ADA compliant, WCAG 2.0 AA. And so we've had to go through all of our courses and make sure we meet those standards. And that's a whole process in and of itself that we've had to look at. And then student assessment of learning, and getting that continuous feedback from the instructors, and how that helps us determine how we prioritize which courses need to go into redevelopment, which courses are ready to go for independent formal QM review. We only have 13 courses that have been QM recognized, but it's baked in to all of our courses. So hopefully on first attempt, they all get QM recognition. Yeah, those are the big measurements.
So how do we know we're winning, particularly when it comes to faculty? Lots of conversations and collaboration had to take place in the beginning. When we first moved towards the Quality Matters standards, and the faculty who taught online and also taught on ground began to recognize, gee, these could help me in my on-ground class. And at one point, I suggested that we adopt the Quality Matters standards across the board. And we had a few on-ground faculty who didn't teach online say, what do you mean? That's only for online. And I'm like, well, we can't have different quality because it's a different instructional modality. So we just did some rephrasing, and we call them the St. Petersburg College standards. And we have a few additional. Sometimes the framing makes a big difference. One of the other things, though, that we did is that when we created the standard course, we chose a faculty facilitator, but then they were to work with all the faculty who taught that course, so that it was much more collaborative in sharing, well, here's what I do, here's how I address that. And so it has multiple options within it that a faculty member can choose. So not everybody may do an essay, some may do a different type of assessment, but it's all built into that standard course. Throughout the course, while they're teaching it, they can give feedback to that course facilitator. This didn't work well, or I don't, you know, we need to discuss. And then at the end of every year, they come together and they discuss, do we need to tweak anything? Are there any major changes, or we're pretty good, just a few links need to be adjusted or whatever. So that's an ongoing process. And we have said to faculty, adjuncts are required to use the standard course. Full-time faculty have the choice. They can use the standard course, or they can choose to go through all the training to create their own Quality Matters standard course. So to see if we're really winning in that regard, when the standard courses started to come out, many of the faculty were like, well, that's my academic freedom. Came back around and said, wow, this is really good. And I think we've only had 2 of our faculty create their own online course. And so I think that shows that we are being successful. Then, of course, the withdrawal rates, the success rates of the students are increasing. And so students are being retained. We are one of the few, we were one of the first community colleges, there are many now that have gotten on board, that also offer baccalaureate degrees. And many of those began as an opportunity for students who were working to complete a bachelor's degree because they were bound in regards to location, and this through online provided them the opportunity to achieve their bachelor's degree. And we've had great success in those areas as well.
Very good. So what I'm hearing here is to be successful with quality assurance at the senior non-technical level, you got to believe in your own mind and heart that quality assurance is a priority. You got to start there. You got to be able to investigate, negotiate, delegate, and evaluate. You got to do that every day, all day long. Question, sir?
Qualitative, just asking. Just curious about qualitative data, student voices. Is that part of the collection process, and is that available? I'm always interested that administrators, you know, oh, this is what's got to happen, teachers, this is what's got to happen, and then, you know, students are the most important voices to hear. So just want to hear more about that.
So end of course surveys, we have adapted those several times in the last 4 years, because as we've evolved with our course design, such as the change over to digital materials, right? Digital resources. We added something in the end of course survey for that. We also last spring integrated lecture videos into all of our courses. So that was, you know, again, I wanted to get feedback then on end of course surveys. Are you using them? Doesn't, I mean, we know what, again, that's data we can run, right? We use Kaltura for that. So we're able to see, you know, whether they're being viewed and how often they're being viewed. But it's also good to hear the student feedback on that. Like, yes, this really contributed to my learning. I'm so glad now that we have that in there. And then also we have part of our restructuring process was to develop a first year seminar course that it was dedicated for online students, right? Because before it had just been the on-campus version that had all kinds of stuff in it that an online student would never need to know if they were, you know, in California and we're in Ohio, for example, like where to find safety services on campus. So that is another place that we look at very early because it's their first quarter, their first experience. We get a lot of feedback throughout that course in reflection forums and in the final forum as to how well acclimated they feel. They've been, you know, at that point to the institution. We have an orientation process and an orientation course that we don't require them to do, but they're automatically enrolled in, and our online mentors bug them. Before, from the time they apply and they get dropped into that, we bug them to do it. And if they reach out at some point with problems, we look up and see whether they've completed it, because then that becomes a talking point, right, when they meet with students. So those would be some examples of how we're listening to students at the beginning and then throughout the process.
One of the things that we do is when we have a new design that we want to try or a new tool, we really try to take a pilot approach and do some A/B testing. It's really hard to innovate at large scale. And so we really do try to start small and take more of a research perspective. And so the end of course surveys, but focus groups and surveys. We have a great tool that we use for our end of course survey. So you're able to really calibrate it really nicely. It gathers really open-ended questions really well. And so then we're able to take that. We have an IR department that's able to do both qualitative and quantitative research. So that data reduction really is helpful as we do different things with pilots.
We have a student survey of instruction for every course that we use. We also have our online services, does certain polls. They also do some focus groups online with the online students to get information from them. And then we've also been a part of, I don't know if you're familiar with CCCOnline, but they've been coming out with an online survey for students to complete who are taking online courses. So those are a number of different pieces of data so that we are incorporating the student voice.
Very good. Sir? Okay, very good. Yes, ma'am. I will give you my own official microphone.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I was intrigued by your 24/7 support, and I'm curious, how extensive is it? Is it, you know, content as well as perhaps other issues? And then what kind of support do the other panel members provide their students?
So our academic technology group actually, we're responsible for the 24/7 support for both faculty and staff system-wide. So we manage the contract. We have a firm that we work with. And so they help not only tier 1 support, so I need to reset my password, I can't get into the portal, but then we also have a team within our staff that is tier 2 and tier 3 support, and those include a student support professional, someone who really focuses on accessibility and all of our digital integrations, because we have so many digital integrations now. And then we have what we call Prof Help, which is someone who works with our instructors to provide instructor support. One of the nice things about having that situated within CCCOnline, because it could be something that's aligned with more with the IT department, but because it's situated with us, it really is able to give us really early alerts in terms of content issues. They're able to reach out and get into the LMS really deeply. So we have a super LMS administrator who can not only get into our instance, but the other 14 or the other 13 instances within the system to provide that real deep dive. So it works pretty smoothly. Again, it's challenging to do that at scale, but I think we have the controls in place to be able to do that.
To answer your cost question, oh, sorry, I don't have the microphone. To answer your cost question, we're just a small school. We would spend as much on 24-hour support as we're spending for the entire LMS. That's how expensive it is. Yeah, so it's not an insignificant.
Hi, you talked about student satisfaction, retention, completion, etc. How about the learning outcomes? Do you measure the learning outcomes, and do you look at those in order to make those tweaks to the learning? Are they learning where they are supposed to learn?
So yes, and actually that's where the associate VPAA title definitely comes into play, because now I'm overseeing assessment for institutional wide, right? So it's not just for one delivery format, but it's across colleges, across the delivery format. So yes, we are crossing those bridges, because I was watching some threads go through today. It is fun to watch some of the faculty collaborating that weren't previously collaborating as much, but for assessment we need to, right? That the regional accreditors require that it's the same program goals and the same course objectives and the same outcomes, right? That's where the LMS that I mentioned earlier, we're looking at ways to also have the on-campus use it the way that online is, of course, using it for measuring and collecting data and closing the loop and being able to provide that data back to the faculty across the delivery formats and taking a look at, okay, so why maybe when we're just at the start of this process of putting together this revised systematic process at our institution. But you know, a year from now, we should be having conversations at the department level where we're looking at why maybe is online doing better with this program goal and on campus is doing better with this, and evaluating what may need to change in either delivery format. So we're benchmarking those results.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, ladies.
Well, we do the learning assessments, obviously, across the instructional modalities, as was said. But some of the other things that we do is, because we're part of the Pathways project, are the students in subsequent courses being successful because they've gained the necessary skills? If not, then we've got to go back to the drawing board. We also talk to employers about our graduates. Do they have the skills, both the soft and the technology skills or whatever those might be, to be successful on the job? And so those always, of course, then come back. Do we have the right program learning outcomes? Are they tied specifically to the learning outcomes in the courses so that the students are gaining those appropriate skills? So those are some of the things that we use to ensure that the learning outcomes are being acquired.
That's how we know if we win.
That's right. So with the QM process, really that alignment from institutional outcomes all the way down to module outcomes and then the assignments, and of course, you know, all the alignment that goes into that really facilitates assessment really nicely, as you know, Carol. And one of the things that we found is we've had to revisit how we are getting our data, our assessment data, rubric data out of the LMS. So we've had to kind of step back, like Lisa mentioned, and look at what is it in our course design that's really going to maximize the gathering of those assessment data. So we brought a consultant in from our learning management system and said, you know, you've evolved your product. Our course development process hasn't evolved in step. So let's step back and say, okay, how do we best design a course so that the rubrics, the information and the competencies that come out of the rubrics really flow as we put it into the ODS, and then our business intelligence folks can do some predictive fun stuff with it. And with that, what we found is our home colleges all have different institutional outcomes, and our mapping that has to happen, I'm going to get really assessment geeky here, sorry. But as the fact that we serve 13 colleges and they have different institutional learning outcomes, how do we best then do that? So we realized that our colleges all map back to the LEAP outcomes and the AAC&U value rubrics. So we're actually remapping our content now back to that so that the rubrics, the value rubrics from AAC&U can be used for holistic assessment. Then our colleges can then crosswalk that information.
Very good. Okay, we're down to 2 minutes, and by the power vested in me by the Empress of Quality Matters, I'm now promoting each and every one of you to provost. Okay, until after dinner. Okay, now, ladies, in 30 seconds, what advice do you have for these new provosts?
Designate a group or department or individuals, roles, a role to the oversight of your online programs, and keep those individuals or groups responsible for it, because if you don't designate a plan strategically for it, it just kind of happens.
It's like juggling. Hire well. Grow future talent, trust them to do good work, get out of their way, trust but verify, and more than anything, keep the lines of communication open, because that's key, because change management happens quickly and communication's the way to bridge all those.
I think the key is to keep the momentum, keep moving, don't give up. There'll always be naysayers. As I said earlier, quality and achieving that means it's an ongoing process of improvement. Use data to inform decisions and to keep people moving. We've taken a slightly different approach. Our online services are there to serve the academic programs so that they can have the quality and the content and achieve the learning outcomes. But irregardless, the deans are all trained so they can speak the right language, they can communicate across the lines, and I think that's key.
Very good. Ladies, I traveled all the way from the Republic of Boulder to have you teach me. Oh. Yeah, what? I dropped the mic. Yeah. Traveled all the way here from the Republic of Boulder to get you to teach me about the role of these senior non-technical leaders in being sure of quality assurance. Did they do that, ladies and gentlemen? Let's thank them. I want to thank you all so much for your expertise and for sharing those kinds of pearls of wisdom that we all needed. And I want to thank each and every one of you. You didn't realize you're going to be a provost when you walked out, but thank each and every one of you for being here. And let me thank you on behalf of your students for what you do today and what you're going to do for them tomorrow based upon your creative implementation of quality assurance through QM. Thank you very much.